And we're live. Here we go. So, hey peeps, thanks very much for joining us. Most of you don't know me. My name is Oscar. I'm one of 5 co-founders and I'm the CEO of Epidemic Sound. I have been for the last 10 years. And I think the first thing I want to get off my chest is that I'm a total freaking amateur. So I'm a little bit nervous doing a live feed. We're in challenging and very unconventional times. And so I think that calls for and that merits some unconventional measures. So this is the first time that we want to try and see, to a wider perspective, explore what can we do to help in times such as these. So what can we as a company do? What can I as an individual do? What can we basically all do to try and navigate in an environment which is more challenging than pretty much anyone on this live stream have ever anticipated or been part of previously. And so what we're going to be doing here today is we're going to be talking to 2 fantastic content creators, Justine and Marcus, who are literally on the other side of the world. So I'm here in Stockholm, sitting in the office, because one of the things of working from home is you realize that your internet doesn't really work as you'd like it to. So I snuck in here, and in the interest of social distancing, this is probably the most alone I am, because there's nobody here. Normally Epidemic is a company with over 400 employees in 10 different offices all around the world. And since 2 weeks back, we're all working remotely. So everyone around the world is at home. And sort of the level of commitment and how we've come together and sort of tried to support the community is truly, truly humbling. And now as we sort of venture into a world where we're starting to find our footing and understanding how we can act in this new setup, we want to really dive in and start talking to the people who we are most passionate about. And that's you out there. It's the content creators, it's the storytellers, it's the people who bring flavor to food, meaning to life, and make our lives sort of interesting and bring stories to life, basically. So without further ado, I'm going to see if I can connect with Justine and Marcus. So bear with me while we see what happens.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey!
Hey, good morning.
Good
Hey,
morning.
good morning.
How you say it?
God morgon.
Good morning.
Oh, you nailed it, Justin. You nailed it. So good to see you. So, Justin and Marcus, thank you so much for joining us.
Of course.
Yeah, thank you for the invite.
Yeah, this is awesome. We're connecting from across the world.
We literally are connecting from across the world. I think that there's tons of things that unite us. The one which is most sort of ominous and hanging over us is obviously the corona situation. But you're indoors, socially distancing, as are we. And I thought that sort of maybe just to help people get to know you a little bit, would you mind maybe just talking a little bit about yourselves individually and sort of how you work and sort of where you're coming from?
You start.
Okay, my name is Justine Quinco. I go by Coco Quinco. I currently work at Revolve. I've been there for 4 years. I'm a senior content producer, so that just means that I manage and create all video content across all channels for Revolve. That goes for ads, YouTube, Instagram, IG stories, IGTV, and that's actually where we met.
Yeah.
And now we're dating.
Yeah, my name is Zyrken Gustafsson. I'm a Swedish parkour athlete that moved to the US 4 years ago with stunts in mind, and I wanted to be a stuntman. And during my time as a parkour athlete, I also picked up a camera and I started to shoot a lot and shoot photos and video, and that kind of led me into starting to work with these amazing brands, both in Sweden and in the US. And yeah, now we're here and now we're doing this.
Yeah.
Cool. And so I'm guessing a wild guess here is that when you decided to sort of start making content together and you were thinking, should we have Sweden as our base or should we have LA as a base? it wasn't that much of a choice, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Sweden has 300 rainy days a year, the opposite for California. So I think that kind of sums it up.
Yeah, that very much does sum it up. So thank you for joining us. As I said before, this is the first time I'm doing this, so I'm very much in your hands here. I'm gonna try and get us to where we want to go. But basically, as I was alluding to before, what we're trying to do collectively, all of us, is try and understand in this sort of new world of social distancing, where there's a new norm, we all have new challenges, and it's quite challenging to stay sort of optimistic, on point, inspired. And I think pretty much everyone who's watching us right now is struggling with sort of, what does the new everyday look like? Is it very similar? Is it very, very different? And to kick us off, I thought I actually might start by asking both of you, in terms of, if you look at your own content consumption, sort of looked at through the lens of the last couple of weeks, could you sort of, has it changed? Do you find yourselves looking for content which is more serious, more optimistic, more entertainment or information? Sort of, has there been a shift in what you're looking for?
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, since we are kind of stuck in a house, I'm trying to educate myself as much as possible. And I mean, the easiest way is to go on YouTube and try to see tutorials that you can learn yourself, like how to set the light in a lighting, like how to light the set, how to do all of these things. And I think me personally going towards that side is like how to keep it professional. But then on a personal level, I think I'm spending a lot more time on TikTok and just scrolling through fun content too. So
Yeah.
there are two sides of it.
Yeah, my TikTok thumb is numb, so I totally feel your pain.
Right.
Yeah.
Justine?
For me, I think I'm looking for more uplifting things. I think once this first kind of hit us here in Los Angeles, where we actually had to stay home, I think I was really interested in like listening to the news and all of like the crazy negative things. And then I just woke up with a lot of anxiety, and I was like, I'm just going to cut that kind of content, and I'm just going to look for the content that makes me happy, that brings me joy, because everyone's getting so creative at home, connecting with each other. Everyone started going live all of a sudden, which is amazing, because I personally never really used live before, and I love that we're using these channels to really connect, entertain, teach. I think it's amazing, and you're across the world, which is amazing for me.
That's great, right? I think that sort of, hearing you talk, I get the impression that you're super sane. I think that one of the things that I'm struggling now, one of the things I'm struggling with is this new, when you're confined to your house, you don't have sort of the regular routines you can stick to and the things that sort of help you create structure. So can you speak to, sort of on a general level, sort of how you staying sane? Are you being more structured or less so? So what does your regular day look like now?
I mean, for me, I think I'm still trying to wake up quite early, get some sort of workout in the morning to just set the day and set the tone for the day. I mean, we're kind of not allowed to leave the house, but we can still do some workouts in the living room, maybe run a little lap around the neighborhood, but that's basically it. And apart from that, just setting a structure and like, okay, I know that I have to work and do these edits on my computer from 10 to 6, and that's like the most important thing is to like break it up and have some, okay, this is work time, this is play time, or whatever else we're doing. I'm not sitting here on my couch and watching TV all day. It doesn't really work like that. So that's me.
Yeah,
Justine?
definitely. I mean, up until I think 3 weeks ago, when we were, suggested that we stay inside, I was training for a half marathon, which I was supposed to run April 5th. So I really built in working out into my morning regimen, like making sure I got those miles in. So I'm actually really holding that schedule to myself and holding myself accountable by going live. I just went live this morning on Revolve for a workout in my living room. So I think like knowing that people are tuning in and watching because they want to work out with me is also holding me accountable to keep a schedule. So I still work out in the morning. Either I run with him or I just do like a quick little workout here in my living room. And then I actually am working a lot more than I feel like my hours, because my office is just a step away from my bed. So I'm able to kind of like get to my desk quicker, and then also like stay on my computer longer because it is just right there down this, like down the hall. So I am working from 10 to 6, maybe sometimes to 7. I think now as we navigate like what Revolve is doing and how we're pivoting our content and our messaging, it's a lot of like communication that we have to do with the team, and it's actually been really interesting and a little bit difficult to kind of navigate, but I mean, we're getting really creative. So I think also segmenting your house has been really helping me. Like once we like get out of bed in the morning, we make our bed, and I try not to get back in it, because you know, if it's already made, you don't want to like get back in it. And then I treat my office like just work. And then we definitely don't watch TV during the day. Like we don't even really sit on the couch. So like couch is for like you're off the hours, you know, and like dining room, we have our food for lunch. We don't turn on the TV. We just talk for like that hour. So just segmenting parts of my house instead of, because you can't do anything else. So I think that's like been keeping a lot of normalcy in my life.
That sounds quite disciplined. Would you say that discipline is an important part? In a good way. I'm Swedish. I love discipline. I was born disciplined. So I think that's is that helping out a lot?
I mean, she is more disciplined than I am, I would say. I'm a freelancer.
Marcus, you're Swedish. Come on.
I know.
Yeah, but I've also been traveling the world for 10 years and not really had a schedule in my life. So I'm a little bit different, I would say.
Yeah, we're definitely having completely different experiences during this isolation. I think for me, I'm like an extreme kind of crazy disciplined person. And he's more like a free form, you know, floating. Like, what are we doing now?
So, Justine, I want to pick up on something that you mentioned, which I know that I'm struggling with, so I think some people might be as well. So we spoke about production and process, but some content creation, and to your point, Marcus, to me is very much about the balance of two things. So on the one hand, it's about being productive and efficient, and on the other hand, it's about being inspired and creative and creating like the balance between the two. And similar to you, Justine, I find myself getting up in the morning and it's so damn close to my sort of work seat. And I find myself hitting the seat and then being super productive, but for way too long. So like 6-7 hours later, I've had meetings are shorter, they're more well prepared, so you get more shit done, but it's very uninspired. So at the end of the day, I'm totally drained and I tend to sort of get too much production. How are you looking out for your inspiration? And so maybe Marcus, you can talk to that. So how do you make sure that that you create that balance between efficient, productive, but also getting some the big ideas?
Yeah, I've never heard anyone put it like that. I think it's like,
I mean, for me, I would say like this period of time, for me personally, it's about knowledge. I need to know more, and I need to study my craft, and I need to become a better filmmaker. And I'm just putting time in to educate myself as much as possible. But I think that's I don't know. It's a tricky question too, actually.
Yeah, I think it's great. Like, you're right. I've always had an issue with the balance of it, even when we were working in the office, because we have so much busy work at Revolve, but then also we have to also be like really thinking outside the box. So I think for me, the balance might be even more difficult because I am home. Like you said, like you're working for like production is like 7 hours, but then the inspiration, it's like I need to make more room for it. So I think that's going to be something that I continue to kind of like work into my schedule. Because, you know, we are creatives. It's like we have to output and then we have to input, you know.
Exactly.
It's like, so I think I have to make time for it. So
So I think that's great advice. I think a ton of people are going to be curious, because I know I am. You mentioned live, Justine, and how you didn't use it before. I'm assuming you didn't either, Marcus. I know I didn't. This is, as you can tell, first time ever. But can you talk, because you do live workouts, Justine, and sort of stuff like that. Can you talk a little bit about sort of how live is working for you, what your sort of things you're experiencing and feeling through that?
Yeah, I mean, the great thing about what I get to do is because I have a little bit of a following on my Instagram that I've developed over the last few years. So I'm really able to take, like, guinea pig myself through Revolve and try these like live things or these projects, and then I get to directly apply them to the company. So it's really great that I get to do that and experiment with that. I have tons of takeaways for everything. So if I'm going to, ask an influencer to go live every single day, I have a playbook for that because I just put myself through it. So for instance, like we are going to plan on doing these kinds of conversations on Revolve, which is so amazing. So this is like a great way to have like the experience of it and then report back to my team, like, this is how it went down. This is the things that you do and then the things that you don't do. I forgot your question, but.
No, so how are you using live? If you're seeing that sort of, because that's obviously a new channel when everyone is home and we're social distancing, I think connecting to people directly and getting immediate feedback. So the content becomes different, the connection becomes different. It's less production sometimes, but maybe more thinking about what you want to achieve and that stuff. And so I think you've already answered the question, but sort of, Marcus, is there anything you'd like to add in terms of sort of looking at new formats or stuff that's popping up that's sort of you're excited?
I'm just seeing that everyone goes live, and it's almost like TikTok took over from Instagram a couple of months back. Yeah. And now I'm seeing a shift back to Instagram because Instagram has this the feature of going live and everyone's doing it. So I think it's
TikTok is live too.
Oh, they are?
Yes, I just found that out. I didn't know that they had the capabilities, but maybe it's because they found out that Instagram, so they just constantly compete. But they are going live on TikTok. It's just like completely different demographic.
Yeah. So I mean,
yeah, it's just been a really great way to create content with other content creators and like cross promoting, like talking about things, sharing things. I think it's like the only way to like get more than one type of person on and broadcast a message. So I think it's really helpful, especially during these times. And we do have to get really creative. We've never done this before.
Yeah, tell me about it. So do you both feel that people are being more creative now? Are people reaching out and more willing to experiment with different stuff and doing it in collaboration because the world around us is such a challenging place?
I mean, we talked about this yesterday, and I think that people that are creative, we will see a big shift in what the content that they're doing. People that are technical with editing and creative with coming up with new concept, that those people will spike in the creation form. I think for the other people it's going to be a little bit tricky, but I think that's where we started our conversation yesterday. I don't know if you want to add some more stuff.
Yeah, I think the creative people that are like technical are just going to continue to like master their craft and really experiment with this stuff. I mean, fortunately enough, we're isolating together, but there's a lot of people that are alone at their homes and they don't really have anybody to bounce ideas off of or help them set up like lights, or take pictures of them or videos. So people have to get really crafty and buy like tripods and like ring lights or, you know what I mean? Just to create content when they're by themselves, I think is also the next challenge for people.
But the fact that you two have each other, does that help you in your creative process? Can you feed energy from each other? Or do you like annoy each other as well? Or is it a little bit of both?
I mean, I get annoyed when Justine wants to do 500 takes of TikTok videos. And I think I'm like a one take person. Like, let's do it one time and then we're done. That's kind of.
But Marcus, let's be real. I saw your dance the other day, and so you totally nailed it, man. Totally nailed it.
So good.
Yeah, I got it.
He's the next TikTok star. Like, I don't think he even realizes it, but he also secretly enjoys it too. Yeah, I mean, I think by nature, he's more of a consumer of content, and I know that he shoots and he edits and produces, but as far as like social content goes, I'm more of the
creative brain, I would say, behind it.
Do the output of it. So I guess it's like this thing that we have. So he's showing me all this content that he's consuming, and I'm like, let's recreate it.
Yeah.
And he's like, no.
No.
No, I'm okay.
What about if we shift a little bit and talk about business? So looking at the last couple of weeks, I'm assuming that sort of marketing budgets around the world are being looked at and sometimes challenged. Justine, you mentioned sort of training for marathon, which obviously got cancelled. So there's a lot of turmoil and stuff happening. Are you starting to feel it in terms of business? Marcus, you mentioned trips. You've done a lot of trips, and that's off the chart now, right? So that's what are you seeing and feeling?
I mean, for me, I think I had 5 jobs canceled over the last couple of weeks. Supposed to go to Bahamas for a trip, Arizona. There has been a lot of things postponed. Maybe not canceled, but postponed. There's still a few things happening in August as of now. So there's definitely a shift in where income comes in from. So it's like a little different, I would say. And it's tricky, but at the same time, it's only been a couple of weeks, so we don't really know the outcome in a couple of weeks either. I mean, I know that China is already up and running with productions again, and they're producing all of their clothes, and so it might just be a couple of months, and then we're over with it. And then after it all, it might bloom. It might be the most hectic times we've ever experienced, because all of these companies are gonna be in need of content. So that's kind of what I'm hoping for, at least. But as of now, it's been a little bit challenging, to be honest. But I mean, I have a few loyal clients which now are sending me footage instead of so I'm just editing for them and doing a few things like that too. So there's like 2 sides to it.
I mean,
and what's your take, Justine?
Yeah, like on a personal level, I think we had a couple trips canceled. We were gonna go on this like amazing trip with this brand Corksicle, and they unfortunately had to cancel last minute due to the crisis that's happening. But also speaking, like working with Revolve, of course, like our business is based on luxury travel. And so if you remove that, and we work with influential marketing. So if you remove all of that, it's like, how are we going to get creative and promote and market our company and sell clothes? So it's been like a really interesting thing to navigate, especially coming up with the messaging and the content creation. We've been pushed to be really creative right now and come together and think outside of the box. So I think that there are some really good things that happen out of this, but and it also just reminds us, like, don't get too comfortable doing one thing. Like you really plan for the next thing. And so I think this is that's how I'm taking this time, is to really like reevaluate a lot of things and to like really plan on things, because you can't put all of your eggs in one basket.
I totally agree. And I think that reevaluating and sort of refocusing on what's important, what are you passionate about, sort of giving yourself time to pause and think about that and really sort of recalibrate. I think that's great advice.
I mean, do we ever have time to pause like this? Like never.
So here's a little bit of a long-winded question for you, but just bear with me. So I'm this ever optimist. I always have been, I always will be. I even have a nickname which alludes to me being an optimist. If I look to sort of something like television, we're seeing that sort of as pretty much all live sports are being cancelled, there are these huge holes in the scheduling, and they need to be filled. So the lack of sport is creating a situation where new forms and new types of content are being produced because they need to be produced within the whole sort of realm of social distancing. Do you think that there's any way that sort of, and I already get you have this feeling, but sort of that we can see any kind of opportunity, that we can expect some kind of like a creative renaissance, because there's so much, we're being so restricted in terms of budgets, in terms of travel, we can't go outside. We're basically like drawing down all of the resources. And so in history, we've seen sometimes when that happens, you get creativity that explodes because you just have to come up with something totally out of the box. Do you have that sense and that feeling as well?
Yes, I do. I've been watching YouTubes and just trying to see where the shift has been, because, you know, I think a lot of like the research for my job is just watching what other people are doing in the industry, like the retail, specific women's retail and women's fashion. So I've been watching to see if there has been a shift in content, to see if like influencers are creating content at home and like what that looks like. And also, you know, brands like Vogue, since they put out videos like a few times a week. So I'm like, are they going to shift? And if they do shift, what will that look like? You know, and I proposed something that we do for Revolve, you know, like using influencers or having them capture their experience at home and they shoot it themselves. And then it now turns into editing jobs. So I'm like, it's just an idea right now. So I'm still trying to formulate it, but that's just a way that I've been thinking of, like, how can we continue to connect and create content, but not have to be next to each other.
Yeah.
So I think definitely there's going to be some room for creativity. I don't know how long we're going to have to be in this kind of space. But we should be planning for like the next few months. And yeah.
Which feels insane, right? I mean, I totally agree with you, but it's crazy thinking about it.
It's crazy. Like, but we have to adjust, you know?
Exactly. Marcus, I think something that you brought up just sort of sounded so cool. So you actually have customers who send you material to you now, and you edit it from a distance?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I work with a Swedish company called Ellos. Quite a bit. I've been shooting for them over the last year and a half or something. We've been doing a few travels together last year and stuff. So now they were just in Cape Town a couple of weeks back, and now instead of me being there with them, they sent me the material. So I'm now editing a couple of videos for them at the moment, sending over a few drafts in a couple of days, and that's kind of a good one. And then there's another company that we've been working with, doing trips with too, not Revolve, but it's also a product-based company, cosmetics, Benefit Cosmetics. They're now asking us to create social assets, which could be like micro edits, micro videos, loops, and macro photos, etc. So now it becomes more crucial to have your lighting and have your little setup at home studio setup, where you can shoot stuff and be creative with all of their products. So that's like the next thing for me, at least.
Yeah.
I think you're touching on such an interesting thing, which I would love to see if maybe we at Epidemic can help to push, because on the one hand, we're seeing the entire world shifting for the creative part of the industry, but everyone partners with brands and with companies. And I think that we shouldn't be afraid of being quite clear and explicit in the sense saying that, look, we're having to change how we produce and make content, but as partners and brands, you need to change too. You need to acknowledge that. So send us material, send us other stuff. When you spoke about travel, Marcus, I was thinking in times like these, I think people move towards safety and trust. And if you can't go out traveling, I'd love to see your South Africa footage, maybe with a voiceover from somebody who I follow, talking about their favorite trip to South Africa and like reminiscing back in the day, and creating some safety in that, as opposed to, that could be a new idea. If we can't go there, we can talk about previous trips, because that's going to inspire people to want to go there once this all blows over.
Yeah,
so
sure.
I think we can really help by encouraging all the partners out there to you need to step up as well, because creators are doing it everywhere because they have to, and partners need to do the same, right?
Yeah, I mean, I just think about the hotel, the hotels, and everyone who's like suffering in these times, and I think they are really struggling. But I think what they can be doing is using old assets and get new messaging out there, and saying a bunch of, like, they have good messaging, and then that draws people to go there when all of this stuff is over.
Wow. So shifting gears a little bit, but the two of you both have huge followings and lots of fans who sort of love the stuff you're doing. When you listen to them and when you read in their comments and you interact So what are you picking up? What are people feeling? What are they sharing?
Man, well, I like to keep it light on my Instagram.
Yeah.
I mean, doing a conversation like this is very new to me. I think like opening up and being vulnerable is like very new, which is great. So thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think like I think just keeping light on mine. I did ask a few, I think I asked on my Instagram like what kind of content do you guys want to see? And everybody is kind of like not wanting to talk about like anxiety or how to cope, but more like what's
uplifting, right?
Yeah, like more uplifting, more inspiring kind of content.
Yeah.
So that's what I've been trying to put out, and I think it also helps me like making that kind of content. Like yesterday, one of my favorite like nightclubs went live for like a DJ set that was like 5 hours long, and they had different DJs every hour, and all these DJs signed in from different parts of LA. Yeah. And I put it on my speaker, and I turned the whole house into like a nightclub, and we were just like.
Okay, so we're totally doing that. We're totally going to be doing something like that. That's a great idea.
It is so smart, and you connect with people, and it's amazing. And I loved it because it was a monthly thing that we went to. It was called 143.
Yeah.
And I just felt like I was there, and you could just see how like grateful these DJs were to be able to play for you, because it's like a thing that we do every single month, and like this shouldn't have to stop us, you know? Okay. So it was great. And they maintained like, I think 200 people the whole time, the whole night.
Wow.
Incredible.
That's a lot of people. Sounds like a good night. So speaking of good nights in good life, what do you do to stay sane between the work and between creative? So you've touched upon it a little bit before. So it seems that though, Justin, you're out running. Marcus, do you still go out and parkour? Because those are things that you can do sort of and still stay socially isolated.
I mean,
He's running with me now.
I'm running more than I do parkour. Yeah,
okay.
That's kind of what it's been the last couple of weeks at least. But I mean, I could technically do it, but I don't know really the rules of being outside of the house in the US. It's a little bit different from the rest of the world, and everyone has their different takes on it. So you just have to follow the rules in your area. But I mean, the separation of us two, I think it's about having our different rooms turn into different things of your daily life, and also. I know that she is working from 10 to 6. I can't bother her. Like that's kind of what it is. Sometimes I sit there and look at puppies because I want to get a dog, and I
look at dogs all day.
Try to want to show her something.
I feel
like,
you. I feel you.
Don't speak to me. And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, then I'll talk to you at lunch. And that's kind of that's kind of how it is. So just get your schedule. After work, we cook together, we sit down, we have a conversation instead of watching TV as much as we used to.
But we've also been doing like using a lot of digital, and we've been having these date nights with our friends. It's like on FaceTime, and we've been playing like games just to interact, and we're making sure that we're eating at the same time, we're drinking wine at the same time, so it just feels like we're together. Yeah.
Okay.
Which is fun.
Got it. Yeah. So I think I've been blown away by the amount of honesty that you're sharing with us. And to your point, Justin, thank you for being so open. I hope I didn't put you on the spot by sort of putting you in this new environment. Do you want to flip it around a bit? Are there things that sort of maybe you or people watching you want to ask sort of about us or something like that?
I mean, absolutely. I mean, how are you guys, because I know your team is split from LA to Sweden. So how are you guys functioning right now, and how are you coping, and how are you guys getting creative with maintaining your relationships and your business overall?
So I think that we're feeling the pain like everyone else, because it's difficult, both externally because there's worry. We don't know how long this is going to go on. We know that it eventually will end, but we don't know exactly when. So we've been working remotely for a little over 2 weeks now. We're about 400 people who are full-time employees, and then we have thousands of musicians, and we power millions of storytellers. So I think that in times like these, when it's difficult, what we've had tremendous amount of sort of help with is that we have clear values. We have like pictures in terms of sort of inside of us what we want to do, sort of how we want to be a force for good, how we want to do the hustle, how we want to come together, how we want to help basically soundtrack the internet. So we're one of the really fortunate ones because we're a digital company, so we can work distributed. But that doesn't mean that we're sort of better than anyone else. It's super tough, right? Because the whole, I think maybe we get efficiency right, but then the creative side of it, which is our yin and yang, which we have to do every single day, it's difficult because we sort of wrestle with huge problems in terms of music and creativity and distribution and trying to support all our customers around the world. And doing that from 10 offices can be difficult, but doing it from 400 living rooms, bedrooms, closets, wherever you sit in your home office and work is like really challenging. So I think it's tough, but it's what we really try to focus on is one, communication. So I think the people I get to work with are amazing. So we've really sort of rebuilt our entire infrastructure and how we communicate this, sort of trying to work more with video, town halls, which are digital, daily newsletters, sharing stuff on Slack and all the different platforms we can think of, being clear about our targets and our goals and how we organize ourselves, because that's all changed. And so trying to find sort of the new is something that we all have to do, regardless if you're like a big company like we are, or if you're like smaller and an individual creator trying to make it sort of as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's incredible that you guys are still like banding together and getting creative. And I mean, you going online like this is amazing. I think a lot of people are lost right now, and maybe they're not seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. So I think things that I want to offer, because I'm coming from a big company side and then he's coming from like a creator side, you know? So it's like our companies would hire people like him. I think my suggestion for people that are freelancers is to reach out to the companies that you really still admire, that you want to work with, offer to, build that relationship with no fee.
Yeah, offer your service as much as possible. I mean, reach out to the companies that you've been working with before and just say, hey, I'll edit this stuff for you guys and just keep me in mind for the next thing coming up after this thing. And we're, it's about giving and taking. So it's just supporting each other, because I think like everybody's suffering right now. So I think this is like a really great way for us to band together, build relationships, communicate, and still keep the creative going, because it shouldn't have to stop just because of this, you know? No. Like getting creative, and I think building relationships is so valuable, and that takes time, and we have all the time in the world now.
We do have all the time in the world. I think that you both sort of summarize it beautifully. So what we all sort of should be doing and are doing is coming together. So looking at the relationships we have, looking at creating new ones. To your point, Marcus, offering up services. How can we help? How can we sort of support one another? Justine, as you were saying, sort of how can we work with people we've worked with a lot previously, but also find new context and start to introduce. And I think there's a lot of energy in paying it forward as well, making introductions to one another to sort of help each other, because ultimately that's how we're going to pull through, by being a community of creators and sort of coming together and sort of making, sort of taking the world where it needs to go.
Yeah, absolutely. Sure. And I think just like connecting, I know that he's speaking to a lot of his production friends a lot, and checking in, seeing how they're doing, getting creative as much as they can from afar, you know?
I think it's important to share ideas and just come up with like new concepts, and maybe now is the time to come up with your passion project that you wanted to do that you haven't been able to do before because you didn't have the time to do it. So now it's about going back and making the craft. Do your craft at home, and then applying it in real life when this is all over. And also, I mean, this is a perfect opportunity to take on your target list and make your website and just be creative at home as much as possible, and make your reel and do all of this stuff. So that
and that takes a lot of time too.
Yeah, it does.
So speaking of that, one of the trends that we're seeing is that sort of hobbies and DIY are exploding because people have more time and you can learn new crafts sort of from watching stuff. Is there anything that you've picked up? Are you sort of you want to make a life commitment that sort of you intend to learn X, Y, or Z or anything like that?
Good question for you. What do you learning?
Oh, well, you know what? I have a bunch of books that I haven't read. So
okay.
I buy them, I sleep next to them, but I don't open them, you know, like, but now it's like, I'm going to pick up reading. I honestly don't have more time in the day,
yeah,
but I
know.
just have like, maybe more time to myself, that I can kind of like talk to myself more. It's like, you should be reading.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm going to read that book that's been sitting next to my bedside. So I think taking that up, also Duolingo.
Oh yeah, that's
I want to Swedish.
I think that's a great ambition.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
It's a lifetime commitment. I think it's gonna take some time,
but it's one of the huge global languages. There are like there's like almost 9 million people who speak it worldwide. It's going to be so useful in the grand scheme of things.
yeah.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah.
So,
no, I mean, for me, I just try to study. Like I try to TikTok too, but I'm trying to study how to light things. I'm kind of transitioning into becoming this DP instead of like being just out and filming outside and doing all these stuff. I want to be able to light the set and that's all about learning. So that's a lot for me. I'm trying to learn.
Also cooking, you know, he studied chef.
Yeah,
he was a chef.
Chef back in the day.
Started cooking. So for me, I'm just trying to be a sous chef and trying to learn. I've also taken up baking, you know, so we're eating a lot of bread every day.
That's the right thing to do. I think you've perfectly sort of captured sort of a feeling which I think everyone watching can feel as well. You're basically saying, so use this time to invest in yourself.
Yes.
So stay positive, stay optimistic, make sure that we partner up and we come together, invest in yourself, pay it forward, be generous with your time and your knowledge, because now is a great time to do that. And so together we can sort of take the next steps.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Marcus and Justine, thank you so much for your time. I've seen there've been tons of people watching this. I'm super excited. Thank you for bearing with me, sort of all nervous and stuff doing this. I really enjoyed talking to you.